Well, hello and welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where in this video we are going to finish up the disaster on our H2. I've got the shims that I need now, and with those we will get the cams installed, get that all timed up, and then we can go on and finish up the radiator and all the other good stuff. Um, from the last video, I was going to um, record me polishing the pipes, but that's just too boring. Well, we're starting to make some progress. The engine is all bolted in. The left side is basically all hooked up. The chain is put on. I've gone through and I had messed up a little bit on the clutch line when I was putting the engine in. It was supposed to be on top of the engine, and I had it underneath, and then it went in, and so I had to remove that and get it all straightened out again. But that's all done. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to remove the right-hand side cover so we can go on ahead and adjust the valves. But I noticed when I was um, the last time I was in here, I was looking at the oil pump chain, and it seemed to have too much slack. So I've got a new one of those, so we'll set that in there, get everything all adjusted, get the valves all adjusted, and once that's done, we'll continue on putting all the parts on. Then I can put on I've got all the injectors and everything off, the throttle bodies. It makes it so much easier to work on the cams when it's like that. So all that stuff is out of the way. So we're going to continue on and just keep right on going with it. Okay, so let's go on ahead and start to remove this cover. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the clutch. We're going to see what we can do about getting that oil pump chain replaced, and then we can get this side buttoned up. Okay, first things first, let's get the clutch springs out of here. This is actually fairly easy to do. This is not a tough job. Just pop these guys off a little bit. Now this is a 2018 with a slipper and assisted clutch, so there's the pressure plate is a strange mechanism, pretty cool. That it's a slipper, and then as soon as you start applying power to it, it starts torquing down on the clutch, which is really nice. And I'm just kind of doing this slowly. These bolts are fairly long so that you can catch the springs without, because the springs are long, but there's only 3 of them. And they're not really strong, which gives you a really nice feeling clutch. This clutch is a dynamite deal. Okay, so there's that. And then this guy just pops off. And the only thing that we have to do here, we don't have to really do much of anything, is this particular clutch plate is different than the rest. It kind of indexes differently than the others. So we just have to remember that. And then we can pull off this bearing guy, and then we just need to remove this guy, and I believe he's a 27 millimeter, so we'll go get an air impact and a 27 millimeter. Okay, and here we go, 27 millimeter, and there we go. And we'll have to retorque that back on like this, so. But now what we can do is we can actually just pull this whole clutch, and I don't think there's any washers there, so we should be able to just pull it. We're going to lay it down. We're not disassembling anything. And there's a bearing and stuff that goes along with this. And okay, I see this chain. It doesn't have any kind of adjustment on it, but it comes off with this. Okay, easy peasy. We'll take a look at that. So what we got to do is we're just going to move the guy. Well, maybe we can get it out of the way. enough? No, I don't think so. The guide has got to come off. So we need to pull that guide, and that's just a 5mm. I'll get a. It's just so nice and clean inside this engine. It's just really fantastic. Everything is just, and that's good. That's just all we needed to do on that one. This has got blue Loctite on it, so we'll put blue Loctite on there. And then this guy should just slide off, which he does. And here's our chain. So here's this, and this thing just drives off the clutch, and it rolls this chain. So I've got a new chain because I didn't like the slack in it. Now it doesn't mean that this chain is bad. It could be that the new one has that much slack in it, but better safe than sorry. It's got a lot of miles on it, so let's just make sure it's okay. Yeah. Okay. So now here's our new chain, and I guess I could try and measure it against that. We're just going to go ahead and put this thing back on and see how much slack we've got. And I don't think there's any adjustments that could have been done. So all that we do here is we just take our chain and put it around our oil pump. First, let's get that done. Well, we're closing in on it, I think. Yeah, okay, that's it. That's that. So the chain is on there. Let's get the back over to the adjuster. Oh yeah, that's definitely looking tighter. Okay, now here's some blue Loctite, and here's our bolt. It's clean. I didn't get any oil on the threads, so it's still fresh. Nice blue Loctite on there. Okay, and we take this guy out. And we'll put our new one in there. We'll roll it in. Alrighty. Oh yeah, that made a huge difference. This chain was really worn out. There's almost no slack in this one now. That's wonderful. That's what we wanted. Make sure these guys are tight. Yep, good. So we're in good shape there. So that was a worthwhile effort on my part, just to get that chain. It was worrying me when I looked at it the last time, and I just didn't like what I was seeing. So that's all done. So now all that we have to do is we can take this, we can put this guy back on here. And he slides on just like that. And then all that we have to do is we can take our clutch. Let me wipe off the back real quick. Make sure we pick up any dirt. Okay. So here we go. Put this back in. And it shouldn't be any big ordeal, which it's not at the moment. We got that's in. So the only thing you have to do here is you got to get the oil pump to index into the clutch. You just kind of turn the oil pump until it pushes in, and there you go. So it's indexed into the clutch. And this nut has got a little it's bent from the factory, so it stays tight and it can't come off. And make sure that the nut still has that bend in it, which it does. I'll go look up the torque spec for that and torque it on, and we'll come back and finish putting together the clutch. Well, it seems the camera stopped recording when I was torquing down the clutch. Wonderful. So anyway, we are just going to go on ahead and finish up putting this thing together. So we got the clutch pusher, this outer metal plate, and you just need to get it lined up properly. Oh yeah, this one indexes into the uh, outer hub. So this guy goes on here, and you can push this on. And then what you do is we need to take this and this plate, once we get this lined up, this outer plate goes into a different index. And there we go. This, the hydraulics on the, that's good. All right, so now we need to get our springs in here. Okay, and we'll get these guys started. Alrighty. So they get them started enough to hold in there, because the hydraulics are kind of pushing on the clutch. It's all right. We'll get it. Okay, and just wind them in. And there we go. Okay. All we need to do now is let the ratchet out here. Thought I did. I'll use this one here. And we'll get these guys tightened properly. Okay, I've done so many nuts and bolts in my life, I can tell you I'm right on target here. Not going anywhere. Perfect. Okay, good. So now our oil pump chain has been replaced. It's in perfect condition. I'm going to go on ahead and clean this up a little bit, get it ready for the cover, and we can get the cover back on it. I'll take a little bit of this and put it around where the cases come together. What they tell you to do. And you do the same thing up here. Just a tiny little bit. Cool. We're done. And we'll get a couple more here. Gaskets lined up. Actually, this bracket that goes over that. Alrighty. Do a cross cover. Got it. Okay, 106 inch-pounds. Okay. The exhaust is in dire need of help. So I'm going to start on this. I don't know what method I'm going to use to clean it, but we are going to get this thing cleaned because it's got 81,000 miles on it. I've been cleaning it, but the bottom side of this is pretty bad. The parts underneath the radiator are terrible. So let me just move things over here. Move the camera down a little bit so you can see. Yep, come on guys, you can take a look at this. And it ain't pretty. So what we're going to do is we are going to pretty it up. There's going to be a lot of polishing, noise, and whatever. So it is what it is. But we're going to be using stuff like this, these angle grinders with felt pads on them. And the felt pad, the first thing I'm going to try, I've got some Chemical Guys heavy cut metal polish. And we're going to see what that does. It may not do anything. The end-all product that you could use is the Yoshimura stainless steel cleaner. That stuff goes through this yellow oxidation like nothing you've ever seen. But it's expensive and it's hard to come by, so I'm not going to use up what I have if I can use something else. I'm going to use that for emergencies and whatever. So I'm going to try and get this thing cleaned up a little bit. So this is heavy metal polish, and it's supposed to work on chrome, stainless steel, and aluminum. Okay, so we're going to give this stuff a try. This is heavy cut, and we'll just try it on a couple spots in here, see what we got. This is heavily pitted from just rocks coming off the road. Let's see what this does. We're just going to a little bit on here. I'm going to rub a little bit around here, and we're going to take a look. Now, before the compressor starts up, it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. It looks a little dull, but the yellow and the nastiness is really coming out. And I am not trying for perfection by any means, because this thing just gets ridden, and we just need to get it better. Well, I'm going to call that a huge success. Well, the way I work on doing valve shims, over the years I have found out the best way to do it is the first thing that you do is you measure all your clearances. And this is what they tell you to do in the book. And you do an accurate job of it. You can either use go, no-go feeler gauges, and I'll show you what those are, or regular feeler gauges, however you like to do it. Follow the instructions, get everything put in the way it needs to be. Then in the modern bikes, you have to remove the cams, and then you go in and you remove the shim. You have to remove the bucket and keep them all in order. And I have a box here that I use for this, and I can then put all the shims and buckets in their proper place, and they don't get messed up. Then what I do is, if the shim and bucket measure okay, obviously you don't even have to take it apart. If they don't measure okay, and you're doing a whole valve or whatever, you go through and get everything done. check the shims that you need, check what they are, do the calculation they tell you in the book. And then the calculation is you take your measurement and then you then add in, you take the shim size, you add in your measurement, and then you subtract the mean size, which means somewhere in the middle of the range. So if it's whatever the middle of the range is, and that is the shim you're going to need. And then you can go in and get all the shims that you do need. On the H2, shims are freaking expensive. They are like $17 to $22 each. So, you know, you have to be very, very careful. You can't just, it's not like the old days where you just get a shim with a buck or two or something like that, and you can make a collection of them. But to get a collection of shims, it can be very expensive. So what I've done already, I've gone through all those calculations a couple of times. I made sure everything was good. I figured out what shims go. I did the mixing and matching where everything needs to go. I got the new shims that I needed. I needed 7 of them, so that was quite expensive. And I've got them, what I do is when I know that I've got them dialed in, I take the bucket and the shim that it needs, and I put the shim inside. If there's going to be some mixing and matching, I'll take the shim and put it outside of the bucket so I know that it needs to do something. But these have all been calculated. They all should be in good shape. So what we're going to do here is start putting this in. We'll go on ahead and put everything in, and then we'll go back, put the cams in, and measure them, and hopefully I don't have to take them out again. So I'm going to get down to putting the shims in and putting the buckets in, and we'll get these cams done. Alrighty, so all the buckets and shims are in. So the next thing we're going to do is put in the cams. So the next thing you do is we are going to remove this cap, and this cap will allow us to turn the engine. I've got the chain kind of captured here with it's sitting up here, so we'll go on ahead and we'll pull this off. Okay, and we'll get this guy off. It shouldn't be tight at all because it was actually extra tight because when I first tried to do it, I couldn't get the thing off. So I had to heat up the case and freeze this, and it finally came off. That's a whole other thing. So what we want to do here, first things first, is you kind of hold your chain up, and there are some marks in here, and this guy is already at it. It's you have to line up 1 and 4, 2 and 3. Excuse me, the 1 and 4 mark for top dead center. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the cam in, and we're going to line up the marks. Now, and on the H2, there are 2 cams, obviously. There's an intake cam, and the intake cam, you can figure out, it's not marked anywhere, I'm not sure, but there's an extra little stud that comes out that the exhaust cam doesn't have. And let's see if I can show you right here. This guy here, the exhaust cam doesn't have that. So basically what you're going to be doing here is making sure it's all kind of cleaned up. And there are some marks on your intake cam, and you want the AI for the A mark and the intake. And that what we're going to be doing here is it needs to line up with the casting in the valve, in the head, excuse me. And so to do that, we just take and we put our cam in place, and we do our best to line up that mark. And again, it's almost impossible to show you on that, but it's when the cam is in there, I should be able to see that AI mark basically lined up. And I'm going to say I'm 1 tooth too low. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm pushing down on the adjuster area and pushing it down, and I can see that it looks like I'm just one tooth low. So I'm going to change that. I'll just move the chain one tooth. That's it. And push this in just a little bit. And when I look, it pretty much lines up with the cylinder head. There's a little ambiguity there, but you'll figure it out when you do it. Okay, then we just need to take our exhaust cam, and there is an AE mark. And there's a BE and an AE, and we want to make sure that the AE is the one that lines up with the head. And this part can be a little fiddly. And it's good that I've left the radiator off, because that makes it a lot easier. But getting these cams in with the chain in the right spot can be kind of problematic. Just it's such a tight fit that you got to kind of work it a little bit. It eventually does pop in there, but you do end up fiddling around with it a bit. And sometimes you have to just take and move the engine back and forth a little bit. There it goes. And then make sure you're lined up with the marks again. Then you have to look inside. And again, I can't show you on the camera, but I have to look for my AE mark. And their mark is, yeah, it looks like it's level. Perfect. I think we about got it. There's AE, AE, AI, AE. Yep. Okay. So now our cams are lined up on the AI and AE mark, and what we need to do is start putting on our cam caps. And when you do this, the best way to deal with them is there are dowels in each of these, and keep the dowels in the engine. The dowels may want to come up into the caps. Look, there's a place for the dowels to go in. They're spacer dowels, they're hollow, but you want to leave them in the engine, because if you're trying to put these in, then you end up fighting. You're fighting those things falling out. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to take a bit of assembly lube and put them on each of the caps, just in case I don't have to take it apart again. And and these are numbered. It's 1 is the leftmost forward, 2 is the rightmost forward, 3 is the leftmost back intake, and 4 is the leftmost or rightmost intake. And this is just a little bit of Molly engine assembly lube, and it's not nothing horrific. It's just basically heavy oil with a little bit of Molly in it. And so this is number 4, so I can put this guy here. Okay, so now then once these are all started, when the caps are on, we can now start them in by hand. Never ever ever try to run these down with a machine before you start them, or you will cross thread things and you will not be happy. Okay, so to put in the cam tensioner, you can't just push it in. If this is extended out, you will never get it in. You can't just force it. It's got oil pressure behind it. It's a one-way valve thing. So what you have to do to get it back into place, there's a little clip in here that stays in there, and all you do is you take this and you turn it as you're pushing it in. You can just kind of wind it back and forth and push it in, and you'll finally get it to go in. So this is perfectly clean now. I got a brand new gasket on it for it, and you make sure that your gasket lines up and all the holes line up, and then you can just go on ahead and put the tensioner in. And it only goes in the one way. Make sure your gasket lines up perfectly. Everything lines up. Once you get it lined up, see, with it pushed in, I can just push it all the way in. So the next real thing that's hard to do here is getting the cam cover on with all the stuff in place. And so you kind of have to be really careful, get as much stuff out of the way as you possibly can, and then you can get it on there. You have to, it does need a little bit of sealant in certain spots, so we'll get that on there. And then get this tightened up. And our tensioner is all in there. Okay, continuing on, we're going to go on ahead and put on our throttle bodies. I just went on ahead and I carefully cleaned up the surfaces where the O-rings go. Get that O-ring back in there. Needs to lay in there just in a natural position, because these O-rings are really easy to displace, so you've got to be really careful about this whole thing. And now we need to just lay these on here very, 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 very carefully. You have to kind of, and the idea here is not to displace any O-rings or anything like that. So you just got to kind of lay it on as gently as possible. There it is. That is just perfectly in place. It doesn't wobble around anything. You have to make sure that the injectors don't wobble at all, because if they do, that means you've displaced an O-ring. So these are down solid, and we just need to get a couple bolts in there. Good. Most of the bolts that hold this down are the cover. Okay, that's right. Yep. And away we go. We'll get these guys tightened down. Ever so carefully. So before I forget, we need to torque this throttle bodies down to 89 inch-pounds. So I set the torque wrench to 89 inch-pounds, and we will torque away. We'll start in the middle, kind of work our way out. 89, and there's another one over here. So I'll make this one 89. So continuing on with our assembly, we are now ready to put on our air chamber. This is all clean. It didn't take hardly any cleaning. It was pretty much clean inside, even though I've been using a Sprint air filter, which you can pretty much see through. And so you put this on, and it sits on top of these. Just got to make sure your lines and stuff are out of the way. It sits on top of the throttle bodies, nice and tight, doesn't wobble around. And so what I need to do is I'm going to use thread locker, non-permanent stuff, on each and every one of the bolts. Put some thread locker on each one. And good thing I double checked, it's 71 inch-pounds. So, yeah, 89 seemed a little harsh. 71. All right, 71 inch-pounds, all torqued down. So next, we need to put on our velocity stacks, or air ducts, whatever the hell. These guys go on like this. And again, I'll be putting some Loctite on all these guys. For a 4mm Allen here. And wind them in. There we go. There's one. And these get torqued down to, I believe, 51 inch-pounds. Well, what did I say? And done. Okay, all torqued down, ready to go. And there are some indexes, the way this thing goes. So it goes on just like that. Just like that. All the holes are exposed. Nothing seems to be out of place at the moment, because we got a bunch of bolts we got to get started. Okay, so now we take our clamp, make sure it's aiming the exact same way as the other one. So there's a clamp on here. They're both aiming in the same direction. And I'm going to get this pushed down on it a little bit so that everything is nice. And what you do, make sure you remove your paper. Take a quick look down there just for laughs. Put on let the rubber thing go in. And now we can take, put the rubber on there. There we go. Push down on. Okay. There we go. Very good. Okay, so we got a bunch of bolts we need to start. I've already black holed the Allen wrench, huh? Oh, there it is. All right, so now I'm just going to wind these down gently. Make sure everybody's started correctly. The gasket is in place. It's not misplaced at all. It didn't move out of the way. Here. And we'll just go here. And we'll go here. Kind of work our way back and forth. 6mm. These are 5mm Allens with a 5mm bolt, which is makes it a little bit easier. Most 5s use a 4, but in this case it doesn't. Okay, now we've got another harness. We got this guy. We got our other harness that needs to get plugged in here, and this one goes around it. I can see it looks like that. And there's a plug right here. We've got a couple vacuum lines I got to deal with here, but we'll get those. This guy, he goes, I don't know if he goes underneath or over the top. It looks like he goes over the top right here. Okay, and then we'll push this in. This is for the top fuel rail. This thing has multiple sets of injectors on it. There's uppers and lowers, and the lowers are for your basic, when you're just using, that's not the right one. Let's go here. This guy goes here. 2, yep, and 3, and 4. So you have lowers, which is for your low speed and all the way through the range. And then you have an upper set of injectors that are for when you've got this thing wide open and you're really needing to make horsepower and dump fuel through it. So that's why there's 2 sets of injectors on there. The other ones spray directly into the throttle bodies or below the throttle bodies. These spray above the throttle bodies into the air intake canister, and then they get mixed up really nicely in there with the supercharger, with the high pressure in there, and you get a really, really, really good, strong mix. right, so the next thing that we need to do is put on our radiator. And it is right here. I cleaned it out. It was really, really full of bugs. The guard itself had bugs had gotten through the guard and just stuck themselves in there. And I washed this thing very regularly, but it was just really, really bad. So anyway, I hosed them all out, and I believe we've got most of the wildlife out of the radiator. So now what I have to do is get this in. Now there's it's a little fiddly. There's a tube that goes down here that goes into the top of the radiator, and then the coolant recovery is the top one. But this one is this could be a little tough to deal with. But anyway, we'll get it. And you just gotta kind of work your way in. And there's a couple of the hoses kind of help sometimes, if I remember correctly. You can kind of push the hoses in, and it'll hold the radiator in place. Maybe. No, I don't have it in there yet. Well, let me get this thing at a better angle. There it is. Okay, there. So that one of the tubes is in. And we will, this goes around the harness. And then we'll get the other tube kind of pushed in. So now, what's nice about that is the radiator is kind of sitting in place. It's not ready for prime time yet, obviously, but at least you can kind of work on it, and without it wanting to really go anywhere. So to put the bolts in now. Normally you would have washers on it, but the guard itself replaces your washer. So they tell you to remove the washers when you get the guard. Okay, get this started. Yeah, it started. And it's tight. Okay, the radiator is installed. We just need to put the clamps in place. So as we start closing in on the finalizing everything, getting everything done, all the wires are all plugged in other than the rectifier. Everything is put away. There's zip ties on everything. All the plugs have been found. All the vacuum lines have been plugged back in. Everything is nice and neat. No extra stuff floating around. What we do need to do here is put on this intake tube. But if you inside this intake tube, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it, I'm going to try and give it a bunch of angles. It's filthy in here. And the reason it's filthy in here is because I put grease, as I put grease inside here, I put grease in here also to, as the air comes through, any dirt that's in there is going to hit this back wall. This air is hitting this back wall, and all the dirt that is trapped in the air is going to start sticking to that grease. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wipe off my finger fairly well so you can see, not the cleanest finger in the world, but it's fairly clean. Hand is fairly clean. And I'm just going to take my finger and pull a little bit of that grease out. And look at that stuff. It is just black and filled with just this nastiest stuff. And there's so much grit in there. I mean, and it's heavy grit. And that's all grit that did not make it to the air filter. It didn't get to the air filter. It didn't get through anything. And is nothing more than me taking a bit of grease. I mean, there's kind of, it's almost got big pebbles in there. I mean, this stuff is just, it's just really nasty. But anyway, that, as you can see, that's what's coming out of that. And what went in there was clear grease, or just nice regular grease when I did it. And it's like the grease in here. So this is the exact same grease, and there's, as you can see, it's totally clear. And look at the color of this stuff. This is just, it is just nasty. So I'm going to clean all this out, put fresh grease in it, and then we'll put this guy back on. Okay, so this is all cleaned out and pretty in there again, nice and shiny and clean. Now there's more grease in there. We got that all cleaned up. And I'll get some grease. We'll coat this whole thing so it will help protect our filter and our engine for even longer. Nice big wad of grease on this screwdriver. And I'm going to take it and I am just going to smear it around inside here. Doesn't have to be super thick, but a good heavy coat. I mean, the more that's on there, if you get in really bad areas where it gets really dirty, it doesn't hurt to have a nice thick coat of grease in there to help pick up any extra garbage that comes down the pike. And you basically want to get it as much as you can on that back wall inside where it turns the corner, because air coming through it is just going to hit that grease and it'll just stick to it. And whether it's a dirt bike or anything, you just put grease on the dirty side of the air cleaner. Not the clean side. I mean, and you can put it on the clean side, really. It doesn't really matter. But like in here, there's a thick coat of grease, whatever, and no matter what, it's going to pick up stuff. If it picks up one particle of dirt, you've done yourself a favor. It's just worthwhile. This is all clean. So we just take this guy and we can now slide him on and push this on here, and we'll put some bolts in it, and it'll be good to go. Okay, it's now time to start. Let's put the exhaust back on this guy, which is a relatively simple operation. We just go on ahead, and we've got a 8mm bolt, which uses a 6mm Allen. And what we'll do here is we just take this guy, get our clamp kind of lined up where we need it, put this on, and push the bolt through. I'll get a 12mm wrench and a 6mm Allen. We'll tighten that cookie up. Okay, so now got a ratchet here, 6mm, 12mm. Tight. Good. Now all that we need to do is take a 10mm socket and tighten down this guy. Let's get him aimed in the right direction. And you just work this, see, you can feel it's loose a little bit at the moment. And then you just start tightening. And it's getting a little tighter. But it takes a bit of doing to get this guy tight enough. And it's starting to get a little tighter. And that's just about it. Just a little bit more than that. And that's tight. So now you got a nice tight exhaust. Everything is all in good shape. So all that we need to do is we got some guards that we need to put on there. And I got the screws right there. And let's put on our guards. And these two guys are pretty simple to put on. Off. We're in good shape here. And this front one, and it goes right into there's a rubber keeper in there. And you just got to kind of work it. There it goes in. And in this one, 4 4mm. This is these are both 6mm, but they have 4mm heads on them. And we just tighten that cookie down. One down. There's that one. Okay, and this guy basically has the same type of deal. It comes in from the back though. Instead of going the other direction, it comes in from the front and goes toward the back. And there it is. And this one uses a silver screw. And the exhaust is done. And I've got some Kawasaki pre-mixed coolant. Okay, I have put the tank on and put the side fairings on. The SD card filled up and that little piece of video is lost. Okay, but anyway, so it's all plugged in. It should be ready to start. I was going to go put on all the rest of this stuff. I thought, well, I better wait until I know everything starts and everything's all good and make sure that the whole thing is ready to go. So here we go. I had charged the battery while it was down, so I have a nice fresh battery. Everything else is done. I very carefully had put all this together so that it shouldn't have any problem. The fluids are all in. We got coolant in there. It's full of oil. I need to start it and check the level, but other than that, we should be ready to go. So here we go. First start after the engines come out, head's been off, and all that good stuff. So here we go. And I just heard the fuel pump pressurize. Let it sit for a second, make sure everything's full. So here we go. This should just start right up, hopefully. Black. And there it is. It is running. A little smoke coming off of the exhaust. No leaks that I can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and there's a zip tie I need to put on. I just realized. Then I can put on the bottom fairings and get that all buttoned up. Then I can put on the sides and all these other little fairings. And there's some cleanup. Then, there's just some other maintenance. I'm going to lube the chain, which you don't need to see. The other things. So I'll go get this thing all put up, all together, and make sure, do a double check on everything. And this thing should be ready to go. But it runs and sounds good. And I wish you could feel when you rev this thing, it is just so smooth. I mean, there's almost zero vibration with this thing. My Concours is a very, very smooth bike, and this thing is smoother. It's just amazing. So anyway, I need to open up the shop here a little bit. It is just a little bit on the smoky side in here, just from the stuff coming off of there. I don't know if the camera picks it up or not. So anyway, that's that. So I'm going to go put some more fairings on, and we'll get this bike tidied up and finished. So, and continuing on, we'll start putting on our fairings. Well, after all is said and done and all the fluids are in and all the fairings are back in, the H2 is up and running. So I'm going to take it for a quick rundown to the Kawasaki shop. I got to pick up a couple things. So that'll be a first little test ride to make sure everything is okay and make sure that there's no leaks or anything like that. The thing starts up beautifully. Everything is fine. I can't see much else to do at the moment other than give it a quick test ride.
How you doing, brother, man?
Pretty good.
Good, man. You out riding today?
Well, our little shakedown cruise after the...
Yeah. Yes, in person.
Not bad for 81,000 miles.
You can eat off of it. Look, nice. He was wanting a 10-hour, but he might be wanting the H2.
Hey, I've never seen these at the track. I've seen lots of videos. I'm curious as to why. I mean, how flickable is this guy?
What?
How flickable?
Well, I've had it over to 55 degrees. It's a heavy bike.
There you are.
There's no doubt about it.
end of our tale of woe with the H2 that dropped the valve. We have gone through and removed the engine, removed the head, replaced the valve, valve guide seals, and everything that goes along with that. Cleaned everything up, got it all ready to go back together, put it all back together, adjusted the valves, got everything done. It was it's kind of an adventure, but it can be done. Now, after I took a quick ride down to the Kawasaki dealership, just for a shakedown run, I brought it back in the shop, went around it, looked at everything. No leaks, no nothing, no problems at all. Nothing came loose, nothing did anything at all other than just was fine. And then the next day, I believe I went to the Kawasaki dealer on Friday. So Saturday, I took it out for a 400-mile ride in 100+ degree weather. The bike was absolutely flawless. It could not have run better. It was strong, even in that super hot weather. I mean, I went from Reno to Truckee to Sierraville to Gray Eagle to Quincy, then to Oroville, and back to Sierraville again, or Downeyville, and then Sierraville, and back to Truckee and back through. So it had some highway miles on it and about 250 miles of nothing but twisty roads and roll-on wheelies and doing all sorts of cool stuff. So the bike was just flawless. So anyway, so it goes to show that no matter what, if your bike has a real problem, it can be fixed, and you can fix it yourself. There's a lot of things that you can do yourself. You don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. A lot of times, if you don't have the tools, you can buy some. There's all sorts of ways to do this stuff. But anyway, so again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.